Alrighty, so today we're going to first start off about talking about the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now we've done some work with this where we know a squared and b squared are going to be those legs of our triangle right here. And then c squared is that hypotenuse, which I'm highlighting right there with the squiggly line. So here my a and b are going to be 5 and 8, so I'm going to do 5 squared plus 8 squared. And that's going to equal x squared. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to type that in my calculator. 5 squared plus 8 squared. And I get 89. That equals x squared. So to solve for x, I have to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 89 here is going to be 9.43. And on the Pythagorean theorem ones, it's going to ask you to round to 2 decimals. So keep that in mind. Here, we're going to do very similar. This time I'm missing a leg, so I'm going to do 3 squared. 3 squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take 10 squared, not 100, 10 squared, and I'm going to subtract 3 squared. Now keep in mind, 10 squared minus 3 squared is not 7 squared. You actually have to square them, then subtract them. So x squared equals 91. I'm then going to go ahead and square root 91. So that gives me 9.54. Alright, this next thing we're going to talk about is word problems. Now my biggest suggestion to you is when we're doing word problems is draw a picture. So one of them talks about a house, so you're going to draw yourself a house. And then it talks about a ladder coming off of that house. So then you draw your ladder. Here's the ground. OMG, look. Oh, let's pick a different color here. Other than puke, how about red? So here is that right triangle, with there being my right angle. So keep that in mind, draw pictures. It's really the best advice I have for you on that one. Then from there, it's just the Pythagorean theorem. Now, when we're talking about converse here, converse is, first, we have to ask ourselves, is it a triangle? So in order to figure out if it is a triangle, you have to add these together. So 2 plus 5 is 7. Is 7 bigger than 10? Here, no. So what I could do is I could change one of these. Say I changed it to be 2, 8, and 9. So 2 plus 8 is bigger than 9, so that's good. Same thing here. 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Is 3 bigger than 3? Nope. So this one is also not a triangle. Alright, continuing on here. So this next section, now that we know it's a triangle, is what kind of triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one that we had up above here, 2, 8, and 9. 2, 8, and 9. I'm going to take my biggest number, that's c squared, so I'm going to do 9 squared, blank. Then I'm going to do 8 squared plus 2 squared. Again, I'm going to type this in my calculator. 9 squared we know is 81. 8 squared plus 2 squared is going to be 68. Because my c squared is bigger, that's an obtuse. If it were to be smaller, that's an acute angle, and if they're equal, of course, that's, we know, is when we have a right triangle. Alright, this next section is talking about our special right triangles. This is where a lot of people kind of had issues. With this section, you do not want to put decimals in. You want to leave them in our square roots. Now, when I sent an email out, I recommended using GeoGebra. I'm going to write that here. You're going to go to GeoGebra.com. You're going to click the calculator. And then up at the top, it's going to say graphing. Instead of graphing, you want to use CAS. And then when you type in your square root, it's going to give you a little button that looks like that. You want to click that button until it gives you the square root. That way you know what to do. All right. So now we are going to talk about 45, 45, 90s. We're going to move this calculator away here. We don't need that anymore. So when we are talking about 45, 45, 90s, one of your angles is going to be described as 45 degrees, or maybe both of them. The hardest part about here is identifying your legs and your hypotenuse. Hypotenuse, we know, is our side opposite of our 90-degree angle, and our two legs are the ones that form that 90-degree angle. Now that we have those identified, we're going to do an example over here. And in fact, I'm going to do two examples. Okay, so this first example is the easy example. This is when we're given a leg. So say here I'm given the leg of 3. There we go. Okay, so because I know this leg is 3, and they're both 45, 45, both those sides are 3. To get to that hypotenuse, I'm just going to plug it in. So hypotenuse equals, my leg is 3 times the square root of, 2. So my hypotenuse here is going to be 3 square root 2. Again, that's the easy one. You're literally just plugging her in. Make this a little bit smaller. Put that over here. Okay, now we're going to try one where we are given the hypotenuse. There we go. Here's my 90, telling me it's a 45. Okay, this time my hypotenuse is going to be 4. Okay, to get backwards, again, I'm going to plug it in. 4 equals leg square root 2. Now to solve for that leg, it's being multiplied by the square root of 2, so I have to divide by the square root of 2. This is when you're going to want to use that GeoGebra.com, and you're literally going to type in 4 divided by the square root of 2. It will simplify it for you, and that will give you 2 square root 2. We also talked about this when we were going over radicals, but if you have forgotten or need a little bit of extra help, again, that GeoGebra is really helpful. This whole section, you're plugging in what you know and solving from there. All right, talking about 30, 60, 90s, this one is a much more complicated version. This one, we're going to be given an angle, either 30 or 60. How we're going to label this one is the one opposite of your 30 is what we're going to call our short side, which means this one would be 60. So the side opposite of our 60 is our long side. And then, of course, we always know our hypotenuse is easy to spot. Okay, we're going to use the two formulas. And again, these formulas are given on the test as well, so keep that in mind. All right, we're going to go with level 1, and we're going to go all the way up to level 3. So level 1 is fairly simple, I would say. We're just plugging in. There's really no math involved here. So I am currently given my short side. Over here is my long side and my hypotenuse. I always label which one is short, long, and hypotenuse so I know what I have and what I can plug in. Okay, so I can plug this in into that formula. So my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times my short side, which means my hypotenuse here is 10. My long side is equal to my short side times the square root of 3. So my long side is just 5 square root 3. Not too bad. I'm literally just plugging things in. Here's level 2. Level 2 is a little bit more complicated because now we have to solve for that short side and then plug that into our long side. So again, here's my long side because it's opposite of my 60, which makes this my short side, and of course my hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my hypotenuse to find that short side. So 12 is equal to 2 times my short side. To solve for my short side, I have to divide by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6, so S equals 6. My short side is 6. Okay, now that I know my short side, I can plug that in to find my long side. So my long side is equal to my short side times the square root of 3. That's my long side, 6 square root 3. All right, friends, time to level up. Level 3, this is as hard as it gets. Whoa! Okay, so for this one, we are now given our long side, which means I have to go and find my short side and then finally find my hypotenuse. So I'm going to plug this in. 9 is equal to my short side times the square root of 3. Just like we've solved here, they're multiplying, so I have to divide by the square root of 3 on both sides. Again, plug this into GeoGebra. 9 divided by the square root of 3 is going to give us 3 square root 3. Okay, so that's my short side. Now I have to plug that in to find my hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is equal to my short side, so 3 square root 3 times 2. Again, I'm just multiplying that outside number, so that's 6 square root 3 for my hypotenuse. And it's just like that. Make sure on the test, to get that square root looking object, you're going to press Option V to get that. Alright guys, that is all that I have. Once you have finished watching this video, please email me and tell me, hey, I've watched the video, I'm ready for another attempt.